I don't know if I'm on. Am I on mine? Okay, these are new people. Okay, Nixoquex. Hey, I want to thank Theda and Native Wellness Institute so much for allowing me to be a part of these conversations and to be a part of this this team here. And we had some technical difficulties, but as resilient Indian people, we power through. And it's very crazy how when faced with adversity and hardship, how a lot of natives, we laugh and we have fun and we bounce back and we have that ability to roll with bad, so to speak. So like Theda said, I'm very appreciative. If you're first time meeting me, my name is Terrance LaFromboise. I am from the Blackfeet Reservation, and I work for a tribal health program, methamphetamine suicide prevention initiative, and like Theda mentioned, I try hard in life, and that has come with a lot of sacrifices, and it has came with a lot of shortcomings and a lot of proudful moments, and those are the things that are attached to resiliency. And Theda talked about it before. A lot of that resiliency is written into our DNA. It's written into our process and how we survived many years ago. And how does that transfer over into now? Well, many different places still have culture, still have a connection to ceremony and process. We still have the power to call on our loved ones and our ones that have gone. We still have the power to call on our earth and our water and our spirit and our beings. Those are things that are written into us. Whether we've lost those or we're finding those, or maybe we understand it but don't know how to get them, those are there. And one thing that Theda said, and we had a conversation yesterday, was song. Song is a huge part of Blackfeet process. Sitsagate Sitapi and the ways Nitsipoksin and understanding Nitsipu Pikani Batapisani, understanding those processes, you begin to make a connection. You begin to center yourself. With song, it's a huge part of that process. It was given to us by Creator to carry that on for our loved ones, to carry that on. So song given to our ancestors has a lot of resiliency in them. So I wanted to share this song because this song has been coming to me in my dreams. And this song has been almost haunting, deafening. And it's only come in part getting back and implementing myself back into my community. And this song to me seems like it's a powerful song, and it seems like that there's a lot of connection to it. And when I sing it, I feel okay. I feel balanced. And I want many people out there to find that balance. And that balance is very hard to find. And we're going to talk about that today, understanding it and finding it. So I thank you guys so much. hey, oh, hey, oh. Wait, hey, oh. Hey, I want to thank you. I want to thank you so much for allowing me and having this space to provide that song. And I'm hoping that brings healing vibes and healing energy towards you and all the people that are suffering, all of our young ones and our adults and our elders, all of our four-leggeds and our spirits and our other counterparts, our loved ones. And I hope those reach you in a very good place. So I want to continue this conversation. That song has been coming to me nightly, and it might be a song that's already out there. We never know. There's so many songs that go to many different things and processes, and they're supposed to help us. I was having a conversation. We were talking about resiliency. Theda brought up Pochsitsi Kamotan, which is supposedly when elders came together, they were looking at words for resiliency. And that's the word that came. And it was when a young man comes back from war, when everyone else has either died or failed, he has come back. And we were looking at ways, resiliency, the ability to spring back and to bounce back through adversity. And when we think about that in a Western concept, a lot of that we look at, wow, maybe Native Americans, we bounce back all the time because when things happen, right, we're just rolling with it. We laugh about it. We have fun with it. And then we just transfer that over into continuing to live. And a lot of the times what hinders those paths and those opportunities is our environment, is the learned behaviors that occur when we are during childhood development, whether we're coming from a poverty-stricken home or whether we have social ills and dynamics within one home. There are a lot of things that can kind of negate and push resiliency out of a person, because then you think, I don't have that ability, I'm not strong enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm weak. And those are things that you tell yourself. So you're already at a disadvantage, because if you are then telling yourself that, how are others going to perceive you? So resiliency is very unique in that many times it comes from the individual. Many times resiliency is built up. And that also, in that same instances, it can be taken away based off of where you're at mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Those things have to be kind of in a balance. When you think of what Theda was talking about earlier, balancing yourself, there is this quote unquote that isn't talked about, that you don't just become balanced. You don't say, man, things are sucky, I want to balance things out. You have to put in the work. And the work is what we're going to kind of discuss today. The work is what we're going to kind of get into. And the work is understanding and balancing yourself. Because sometimes those are the hardest things that we have to kind of control, is one's responses and emotions that come with perceived outcomes. And those resiliencies are individual. Then you have a community that has the ability to pick you up, that has the ability to come inside of you, so to speak, to then put out all this energy that each and every individual has. Each one of us has that ability. And because of our environment and because of our upbringing and not taking care of those things in a healthy way, the learned behaviors of a reservation system, drinking, drugs, domestic violence, suicide, unhealthy relationships, those all play into one's ability to be resilient. Resiliency is there. It's a human trait to overcome. If resiliency wasn't put in the process of human behavior, I believe we would probably have died out long ago. So there's a purpose for everything, and there's a purpose why we're still here. And as I continue to process this idea of resiliency and an idea of resiliency, what is that? What is that paradigm? What is that construct? And I can only speak about my experiences living and being born on a reservation and then leaving the reservation only to come back to try to fix paradigms that are no longer available for future generations. How do we cross those bridges? How do we fill gaps? And I can only attest to my own experiences. And when I think about resiliency, when I was asked about this topic, I find a hard time because sometimes I wonder, why am I still here? Sometimes I wonder who is actually benefiting from me doing these things, and why aren't other people stepping out of their comfort zones to stand up for what is wrong? Because in all reality, I feel like there's things that can be fixed. And if I want it done a certain way, I should go out and do it instead of cry and get mad and be angry at others to get it done. And I believe that's what happens on reservations. They call it a crab in the bucket syndrome. They call it working in your silos. Yes, negative things are always going to be there. Systems are always going to be in place. It's up to us to communicate, to build bridges into those systems, so that way you are then increasing your resiliency because you are being connected to issues. You're being connected to other people. You're actually wanting to overcome, because you know what you're in right now isn't the best place you can be, and other people can. It's like as a coach, I've been blessed with to be able to coach here on my reservation, and a lot of the kids talk about all the stuff that goes wrong, the negativity, and we have to remind them sometimes how strong they are, how you're here for a reason. Don't ever take that for granted, and we do because it's a human condition to continue to move on. It's what happens to the mind, to the spirit, and to the emotional status of our well-being that is disrupted. And we are physically able to move on from a lot of it, but emotionally and mentally is another story. When a severe traumatic experience happens at a younger age, the only way we overcome is based off of our environment. What is mom and dad doing? How does mom and dad react? How do grandpa, uncle, auntie, and whoever's perpetuating the trauma? That's where you're going to see a lot of the resilience, whether this child has the ability to bounce back. And what you're going to get, and what I've known to be true and other people have told me in working with CPS and working with childhood trauma, is kids are resilient. And that got me to thinking, is resiliency a mask? Is resiliency something we can put on to be tough? And I don't think it is. It's something that's encoded into us. It's something that's deeper than the physical flesh of just being okay. Being okay isn't, I ain't just alive. I'm grateful to be alive. I ain't just going through the motions. I go through the motions because I know the little motions make the biggest differences. And that's because I started to study my behaviors, and I started to study my surroundings. And I believe Theda talked about that. We have to be aware. A lot of Native Americans are firefighters out there, and they talk about, in firefighting, situational awareness. When you have situational awareness, you are a better firefighter for it. Why? Because you're able to observe, you're able to take into account how much fuel is over there, where my exit strategy is, where my crew is, and where my boss is. What we don't do on a regular basis is we don't do that in our everyday lives. We don't say, well, here's an exit strategy. Here is a place I need to go if things get a little hairy. Here is my support system. Here is the plan to bring it all through. We don't take that into consideration. Not many people. Because why? We're just surviving. Why should I have to worry about all those other factors when I'm just trying to survive, brother? Let me survive. I'm okay. Let me make bad, condescending jokes that are half truth and half joking. And that's where we're at. And a lot of that is just our ability to survive. But what we're getting at is understanding our environment. What we know at a younger age is when we have traumatic experiences, we look to our environment to see, was it okay, was it not? And if we're all like, oh, poor baby, guess what? The baby is going to feel sad and it's going to want to be this. But if you give that same baby crying and everything, if you give it, if you don't, and I'm trying to think of the word, if you don't coddle it and if you don't, play into its emotions, it'll then grow resiliency and understand that I need to be able to hold my emotions better and I'll grow. We do that at a younger age and we forgot about that. We forgot about our cultural understandings and connections to teaching our youth. That is why the U.S. government, so to speak, the Western education process took our children. Because they knew they couldn't defeat us until they took our children away. Because they knew we built leaders through our kids. And yet, we're here today. And I always, why? Why are we here today? And the key word is resiliency. We're here today because we have with us, embedded in us, the ability to overcome. And those come from many different areas. Those come from many different people in your life. Those come from your behaviors. Those come from your learned experiences. Those come from your friends, your family. Those come from going to a racist town to a non-racist town, flying on a plane. They come from every little experiences that we have. We build resiliency because we are aware. We are touching our core to what is physical out there. And that's where you get people, when they are hypersensitive, when they're more able to pick up on people's empathetic or sympathetic emotions, we have to be able to start to get to that point of being more hypersensitive to our surroundings and others. That'll cure a lot of different deviant behaviors that we have on the reservation. And I'm only speaking of my experiences and myself and my education. And this is weird for me because I usually have Theda here guiding me. And this is my first time being here. And I really respect all you guys and everything you guys do out there in the real world. And I really appreciate all of you guys because we're here. We're alive. Don't ever forget that. Don't neglect your story. We all have a story where we come from, and we all have something that we're attached to. That's that strength. And going back to my growth and why am I here and how I can then maybe connect this conversation to a lot of us that are going through the same similar situations, our experiences created that. And I think, why am I still here? And I think of my support system. I want to say I'm here because of my language. I'm here because I know songs. I'm here because of my other things. But what I know to be true is I'm only here because of the people that I surround myself with. That when I was down and out, when I was in the best person I could be, there were people in my corner that were pushing me. And it gets me emotional because I know for a fact there isn't a lot of people that have that ability to connect those. And when you don't, you're just left there with all this emotion. You're left there with all this stuff and you're unable to connect it. So I'm hoping that people out there listening start to look at your strengths. We all know what is going on. We all know the negative out there. We all know how that is perceived and why that is perceived. But what we don't look at is our everyday strengths. What we don't look at is how do we overcome all the obstacles that were put in our way? I made a personal post not too long ago about all the deaths on my one side of my family. And I counted, I'm 31 years old, and I have around 27 deaths just on my mom's side of the family. And I think of how did I overcome all that hurt and pain? Why am I still here? You know, I could have gave up long time ago. And there's some days that are so hard I wish I did, but I'm super glad I'm still here. Why? Because people need to hear these stories. I heard a young lady talk about her experience with sexual abuse, and it hurt me. And I thought, wow. And her ability to speak on it, her ability to talk about it, and her ability to share her story was so powerful. It made me realize that we all have a story within us. That's resiliency. It made me realize we are trying hard. That is resiliency. It made me realize that when you keep pushing the snooze button, eventually you'll get up. That's resiliency. Continue to look at your story. Continue to look at your loved ones. Continue to do good things. And I thank Native Wellness Institute for allowing me to be a part of this space. I thank Theda NewBreast for guiding me and giving me this experience, because I'm learning every day. And I believe we are all on a learning journey. You haven't reached at some point where you're just there, right? It's every day. It's every day. Okay. Thank you so much. Nixoquakes, Kitako ko mem Nixoquakes, Nistune Taniko, Itzitsuku Mapa Puma, Kitako ko mem Spumok.